In the Shinigami realm, a Shinigami named Ryuk is engrossed in his thoughts while the others enjoy their leisure time. Meanwhile, in his high school English class, Light Yagami observes his classmates engrossed in their own conversations, oblivious to the lesson. As he walks home, he notices various crime reports flashing across the public television screens. Both Ryuk and Light, in their respective worlds, contemplate the state of the world, deeming it rotten to the core. The next day, Light spots a notebook lying on the ground in his classroom. After retrieving it, he finds himself drawn to the rules inscribed within. Curiosity piqued, he decides to test the notebook's power by writing down the name of a criminal involved in a live hostage situation. 40 seconds later, just as he's about to turn off the TV, the hostages emerge from the building unharmed, while the criminal falls victim to a sudden heart attack. Light is left stunned, unable to fathom the notebook's true nature. Determined to uncover the truth, Light decides to conduct another test. He intentionally refrains from targeting Sudo, a school bully, wanting to avoid making the victim someone he knows personally. However, on his way home from crammed school, he witnesses a motorcycle gang harassing a young woman. Upon learning the leader's name is Takuo Shibumaru, Light enters a nearby shop and meticulously writes down Takuo's name in various spellings to ensure accuracy. To further refine his experiment, Light specifies the cause of death as a traffic accident. 40 seconds later, Takuo is struck by a passing truck, his life cut short in a tragic twist of fate. The realization that he has caused 2 deaths overwhelms Light, leading him to succumb to a violent bout of sickness. In the Shinigami realm, the other Shinigami are having a good laugh at Ryuk's expense, who has just clumsily dropped his death note in the human world. Undeterred, Ryuk unfurls his wings and leaps through the portal, leaving the other Shinigami in stitches. Meanwhile, back in the human world, Light arrives home from school and hands his mother the results of the national practice exam. With a nonchalant shrug, he declines her offer of a reward for his first-place finish and heads straight to his room, seeking solitude. As Light opens the death note, he is greeted by pages upon pages filled with names. Just then, Ryuk materializes out of thin air, causing Light to let out a startled scream and tumble out of his chair. Ryuk, unfazed by Light's reaction, introduces himself as the Shinigami who dropped the notebook and explains its powers. Light, quickly regaining his composure, informs Ryuk that he has been anticipating his arrival. Ryuk, impressed by Light's extensive use of the Death Note in just 5 days, eagerly provides him with more detailed information about its capabilities. Light reveals that he has been systematically eliminating criminals by inducing heart attacks, hoping to instill fear and a sense of justice among the populace. He envisions a world cleansed of evil, where people will conform to righteousness out of fear of divine retribution. Ryuk muses that if Light's plan is successful, he might just become the sole embodiment of evil in a world of conformity. Light, however, dismisses this notion, declaring himself one of Japan's brightest minds and the destined ruler of a new world as its god. Ryuk, seemingly satisfied with his newfound source of entertainment, chuckles to himself, content to observe Light's ambitious endeavor from the sidelines. Next, Light is in his high school English class, where he is effortlessly translating a complex sentence into Japanese. His teacher showers him with praise, commending his exceptional language skills. As the bell rings, signaling the end of the school day, a group of classmates approaches Light, inviting him to hang out. Light, with a hint of regret in his voice, declines their offer, citing his busy schedule. Back at home, Light retreats to his room, the Death Note clutched tightly in his hand. The news channels are abuzz with reports of criminals dying of sudden heart attacks. With a grim determination, Light begins inscribing the names of these criminals into the Death Note, his fingers moving with a practiced fluidity. Ryuk, the mischievous Shinigami, materializes beside Light, his red eyes gleaming with amusement. He cautions Light about the limitations of using the Death Note, emphasizing the importance of balancing his studies and maintaining his health. Light, unfazed by Ryuk's warning, remains steadfast in his mission to cleanse the world of evil. Seiyu, Light's younger sister, knocks on his door, seeking help with her homework. Light, startled by the interruption, hastily hides the Death Note in a drawer and welcomes his sister in. Ryuk, hovering behind Light, warns him that Seiyu would be able to see him if she were to touch the notebook. Light curses under his breath, silently chastising Ryuk for withholding such a crucial piece of information until now. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the International Criminal Police Organization, a tense meeting is underway. The members are gathered to discuss the alarming rise in criminal deaths, with over 52 cases reported within a short span. One member expresses indifference, pointing out that all the deceased were either serving life sentences or awaiting execution. However, another member vehemently disagrees, insisting that this pattern of mass killings warrants immediate investigation. The debate intensifies, with members exchanging heated arguments. Finally, the apparent leader of the meeting brings the room to silence, declaring that Interpol has no choice but to call in the enigmatic genius known only as L. The mere mention of L's name sends a ripple of whispers through the room, each member speculating about the enigmatic detective's involvement in the case. At Interpol headquarters, a young man asks his boss about L. The boss explains that L is a secret detective who has solved every case he has been given. The other people in the room wonder how they will be able to contact L, since he only works on cases that interest him. A tall man in a trench coat steps forward and introduces himself as Watari, Interpol's only contact with L. Watari opens a laptop and shows everyone a big letter L on the screen. A voice comes out of the laptop, introducing itself as LL tells Interpol that he will need the help of everyone there, especially the Japanese police, because he thinks that the killer is in Japan. Meanwhile, Light is in his room and is thinking about how to protect the Death Note. He opens a drawer and shows a normal diary, which will fool anyone who is snooping around. Underneath the diary, there is a false bottom that hides the Death Note. Light tells Ryuk that he would rather risk a fire than have someone find the Death Note and sentence him to death. As more criminals die of heart attacks, people start calling the killer Kira and praising them as a hero. News reports don't mention how scary these killings are, but the many fan websites that have popped up show that most people, especially those who are anonymous online, are happy that Kira is killing criminals. A special TV show from Interpol interrupts the regular program and surprises everyone around the world. A man in a suit says he is Lindell Taylor, also known as L, and shows his face for the first time. Taylor tells Kira that he is evil and that he will catch him. Only when Taylor says that Kira is evil does Light get angry and writes Taylor's name in the notebook. 40 seconds later, Taylor falls down and is dragged off the camera, and the TV show shows L's symbol. L's voice, which is changed so that no one can recognize it, says that he is amazed that Kira can kill people without being there. Light is mad at L for being one step ahead of him, and L makes fun of him and challenges him. To prove that he can kill people from far away, L tells Kira that the TV show was only shown in the Kanto area of Japan. This means that L has narrowed down Kira's location and knows who his first victim was. The police are amazed and motivated by L's work. Light calms down and he and L promise to find each other, as they both believe they are doing the right thing. Later, the police gather to review their findings on the Kira case. L, communicating through Watari's laptop, concludes that Kira is likely a student. As the meeting wraps up, L instructs the police to investigate whether the victims' faces were shown in the media before their deaths. Meanwhile, at home, Light helps his sister Sei with her homework when their father, Soichiro Yagami, arrives. Leveraging his father's position as chief of police, Light hacks into his computer over their shared home network, gaining access to confidential information. Light discovers that the police suspect Kira is a student. Quickly reviewing the Death Note's rules, he begins manipulating the times of death, ensuring that the criminals die while he is engaged in ordinary school activities. The police convene again to discuss the 46 deaths that occurred over the past 2 days, all happening precisely 1 hour apart. L deduces that Kira can control the timing of deaths and is intentionally flaunting his power, leading him to believe that Kira has access to police information. Light reveals to Ryuk that L will soon suspect individuals within the police force. Once the police discover that L is investigating them, they will become enraged and turn their attention to L. Light believes that by the time the police find him, he will have eliminated L. At the NPA, 3 officials hand in their resignation letters to Chief Yagami. They confirm that the victims' faces were indeed shown before their deaths. Unlike L, as policemen, their identities are publicly known. Meanwhile, Watari informs L that the FBI has arrived in Japan to investigate police personnel. On the way home from school, Ryuk alerts Light that someone is tailing him. However, Ryuk clarifies that he is not acting on Light's behalf. Rather, he is simply creeped out by the presence of a follower. Back home, Ryuk reveals to Light that Shinigami, the death gods, extend their lifespans by inscribing human names into their death notes. Additionally, Shinigami possess the ability to perceive the names and lifespans of any human they gaze upon. Ryuk, aware of Light's remaining lifespan, proposes a deal. He will grant Light the power of Shinigami eyes in exchange for half of Light's remaining life. Despite the reduction in his lifespan, Light acknowledges the potential to enhance his effectiveness in utilizing the Death Note. Later, Light explains to Ryak that he wants to create a perfect world where no criminals go unpunished. He believes that as the god of this new world, he can't sacrifice half his life for the Shinigami eyes because it would limit his power. He decides to test the death note on prisoners. Chief Yagami and L are confused by reports of prisoners dying in strange ways. Light hacks into the investigation notes and discovers that L suspects these deaths were tests, and doesn't want the media to find out. Later, Light comes up with a plan to find out who is following him without making them suspicious. He plans a date to Space World with a classmate named Yuri. His tracker, who is starting to trust him less, follows Light onto the bus to Space World and sits right behind the couple. During the bus ride, a drug dealer and murderer named Kikairo Asorda, who was recently in the news, gets on the bus and points a gun at the driver. Light gives Yuri a note and says he will use a move his father taught him to knock out Asorda. The man behind him notices and tries to talk Light out of it, but when Light accuses him of being in cahoots with the hijacker, he eventually shows his FBI ID to prove he's not involved. Light drops the note in the aisle and reaches for it. Asorda sees it and picks it up. The note contains plans for the date, but the plans were written from a page in the death note. After touching the page, Asorda can see Ryak. Intrigued, Ryak walks toward him. Asorda panics and wastes his bullets trying to shoot him. Asorda orders the bus to stop and tries to run away, but he is immediately struck and killed by a white sedan. While the police question witnesses and Ray Penber leaves, Light resumes his date and starts planning the FBI investigator's death.
Like and comment if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel for more anime recaps, and tell me what anime recap you'd like to see next in the comments below.